Hey, everybody.
Yeah. Hello.
Welcome to Sugatan's TikTok ad buying template after having our three-peat. Now, I want to explain what the three-peat really is for me. I think that when I first started Sugatan, I knew that if something worked the first time, it could be a fluke. If it worked the second time, okay, we're on to something. And if it worked the third time, then I know that it is essentially a benchmark and a template or close to a template. So I think everybody here knows that you should be on TikTok. I think everybody's at the place where they're experimenting with it, or they're about to get into it, or you've spent some money already. At this point, we've spent about $1 million in ad spend on TikTok specifically. And I wanted to make sure that before we even talked about what was working for us on TikTok, that it was an actual methodology that was actually working. I think both Matas and I's strengths are we're engineers, meaning that we essentially create a machine that creates predictable output. And the thesis back in last August for me was, could TikTok be just as much as a top of funnel scalable acquisition channel as Facebook has been for the last 5 to 7 years? And now we can safely say that it is absolutely a juggernaut of an acquisition channel. And a big part of it is creatives, but in this particular session, we're just going to go over just the ad buying essentially and how we're structuring the campaigns, how we're starting out with new accounts. And we're not even going to go into anything Facebook related, maybe touch on it just a little bit. It's just going to be just TikTok. And we're going to show you our campaign structure that we're doing. Now, this was actually developed by Matas. Matas is Sugatan's head of growth. He basically all day, every day is inside Ads Manager tweaking along with his ad buyers underneath him and really crafting the innovative campaigns. So yeah, Matas, it's 1:03. I think that there's some people coming in now. I don't know. What do you think, Callum? Should we start? Should we wait for some people? Let us know in chat, because Callum's not doing audio.
Yeah, let's make sure everyone's here and everyone's here whenever. Okay, good to go. Cool. Let's go then.
All right, let's do it.
All right, guys. So all of this, what we want to talk with you today. So we're going to go over one of the simplest templates, let's just say, that we're using right now. We'll go over the template itself and what this template has given us so far as just recap on few results, right? So when we just started back in last year, and this is the first account that we started, it was a
really
test
quickly, Matas. Sorry to interrupt you, but just hide yourself. We can see each other. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, cool. So first account was the testing ground back in last year when we were just testing everything and trying to come up with this template, that because our goal I think overall is always to create some sort of a machine, right, that we can just keep using and duplicate it into another accounts and reach the maximum possible efficiency in what we do, right? So of course in first account it took us a while, right? As you see, it took us 3 months to go from 0 to 5K daily spend while being profitable in ROAS, right? So, when I remember those times, it was really first 2 months were the testing, and then the third month, and the third month we were able to go from 0 to 5K daily spend. Then, obviously we started getting better, right? Second account from 0 to 3K daily spend, we went in the first 30 days. while managing the account. And the last account, third one, was a little bit crazy, right? But this is where I think we have fully mastered this template that we're about to share with you guys. And we went from 0 to 5K daily spend while maintaining ROAS, of course, in the first 9 days, right? So it was interesting path for us to get to this place where, you know, we can share this template with you guys and say that in 6 to 9 days, you know, using something like this, using this template, you have a real chance at going, you know, from 0 to 1, 3, or even 5K in daily spend. There are a lot of outside factors that are gonna impact this template and impact the performance of this template. But since today we're only talking about ad buying and, you know, focusing on ad buying perspective, we're not gonna touch those outside factors, right? So template takes 6 to 10 days to execute. There are 3 main stages, right? So stage 1 is really creatives and quickly testing your creatives. Stage 2 is finding your winning setup. And stage 3 is scaling, right? So let's get right into that, right? So now stage 1 usually takes 1 to 3 days. Is really, you know, when you, especially if you're just starting out, you know, on TikTok, and, you know, most of you guys probably you're already, you know, doing something with Facebook for a while. Maybe you're already doing TikTok, right? But if you find yourself in a place where you are starting, you know, not necessarily brand new, but let's just say you're taking over TikTok account for, you know, your client, and you're already working on Facebook ads there. The first goal really is to find a one piece of element that you can trust from data side, right? So that's creative, right? So stage 1 is you have to find this one creative that you will use in stages 2 and 3. So the whole concept of stage 1 is really simple. You know, it's a simple, regular, usual creative testing, right? You set up your ABO campaign, right? You know, if you have 5 ads, you do 5 ads. If you have 3 ads, you do 3 ad sets. You know, it doesn't matter how many ads you have, right? Structure your ad sets. You structure, you know, each ad into different ad sets. Your targeting is, and this is the most common pattern that we're seeing, especially at your starting point from targeting perspective. What works, you know, is of course you have your country, you have your gender. You know, you do not limit age in your gender, right? So it's full age from 13 whatever to the maximum. You go fully broad without any exclusions and lowest cost. This is the most common, the most often working template from targeting perspective, and you set your budget to spend your full CPA in the first 24 hours. Now, what is important to understand about TikTok is that we're seeing that there is a huge, you know, overall, you know, when you're scaling your business, the most important things I think are to scale fast and scale high, right? So the big power that comes from TikTok is that your whole creative testing process can actually happen in the first 24 hours, because on multiple accounts we're seeing these patterns over and over again. Is that in the first 24 hours, this is when you in the first 24 hours, this is where you're looking for these indicators that will give you the ad that you need to qualify for the stage 2, right? Now, of course, all of you, when you start your TikTok, you understand what your KPI ROAS is, right? Doesn't matter what attribution model you're using. Is it going to be first click, last click? You know, all of you have some sort of KPI, right? So what we're seeing is an incredibly strong pattern is that in those ads that are going to be winners, like real winners, in the first 24 hours, they will show you way higher ROAS than your KPI is. So on average, we're having 0.5x2 times higher ROAS happening in the first 24 hours. And that's the strongest signal that we see to make conclusion that this is going to be a really, really strong winning ad. Usually those ads that just qualify for your KPI, whatever your KPI is, right? Usually they die off pretty quickly, and you can't really scale that aggressively with those ads. And this whole template and strategy is pretty aggressive, right? So when you're in your stage one, right? Let's go back here. Why I'm saying that, it might take 1 to 3 days is because either way, if you want to qualify for the next stage, you have to find that one ad that you're going to be using, right? And of course, it depends on the creatives that you're putting there. But you have to stay in stage one until you'll start seeing these indicators, which will say that you're qualifying for the stage 2, right? So if we know that the testing itself can happen really fast in the first 24 hours, the maximum spend that we need is your CPA. But then on average, when we look in data patterns across all of the accounts, we see that 2/3 of your CPA is average spend cap that you need to set for those first 24 hours as your daily budget, right? So, right, to recap, you go for your stage 1, pretty simple, right? You just do your usual creative testing, you set up your whole setup, your targeting, etc., is basically going after the most often working things, right? You don't take any unnecessary risks. I think the most important thing to point out here is really that we're not limiting the age. Now, it's niche specific, but in some particular niches, let's just say anti-aging, for example, you'll get in trouble for doing this in long term, right? In short term, no one is gonna create a big problems for you, but long term, it's usually not scalable because TikTok is gonna come to you and say you cannot target the people from 13 to 18 because this goes against their policies or against the rules. But because it's stage 1 and we need to make the most confident decisions that we can make, we're going with no limitations, because that's also a very strong pattern that whenever you're going broad, targeting without age limitation actually outperforms all of the other age limitations that you might be setting. So I would say that's the most important thing. In this case, everything else is pretty simple. Another thing, of course, no exclusions. So because our goal is to go through the stage 1 as fast as possible, we're okay with TikTok spending like 20% of that budget to our retargeting audiences. We don't really care about that, because what we're looking here is still to make this argument: which ad are we going to use for stage 2, right? So if our existing customer, let's just say in the middle of the funnel, person has purchased something from this particular ad in the first 24 hours, that's already a conclusive enough argument to make that this ad is going to sell to our audience, right? So that's the main logic why we're doing no exclusions. Okay, you go for your stage 1, you see your indicators, you find your ad that you're going to use, and you go to stage 2. So stage 2 usually takes 2 to 4 days. And in stage 2, we have 2 main layers. So first layer is I'll cover that in a second. We're going to go after broad interest and lookalikes. And that will be free campaigns that we're creating. And second layer is a combinations from answers that we're getting from first layer. Now, the whole purpose of stage 2 is to find a winning setup that will scale you, right? That's all we're trying to achieve here, right? So now let's start going into each section one by one. Broad, right? So now you're thinking, right? But we just did broad, right? In our creative testing. So what else is there to do about broad? Now, the most important thing that we're trying to achieve here is really to trick the algorithm with these tests that we're doing. What I mean by that is that, in my perspective, ad buying, the most important thing about ad buying is that you're constantly trying to trick the algorithm for better ranking and better costs while maintaining the same quality, right? So what happens with no age limitation targeting is that most of the times it really gives you the cost, good cost, right? And your pixel especially if it's already an existing businesses, you know, and you had that pixel installed for like 2 weeks before you actually start doing this, you know, your pixel has already accumulated enough data to start understanding where the money needs to be pushed, right? Because if you usually what happens is when you go into analysis mode, you will see that it doesn't matter, you know, if you run an ad set without age limitation, or you run an ad set 18 plus or 25 plus, especially if your audience is older, the money is still going to go in the same place, right? So in the end, what you put as age limitations here, that doesn't even matter for Pixel, because Pixel, majority of money will still be sent to the same people, right? So the only thing that matters here is how we're going to trick the algorithm to give us better costs, right? Now, as I said before, running no age limitation ad sets might be a risk for the future. So of course we want to, you know, avoid taking those unnecessary risks, you know, get our account rejected, blah, 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 right? So main thing that we're trying to achieve here is see how can we find the winning setup inside the same broad audience between running combinations between different age limitations and age expansions paired with those age limitations, right? Because when you think about it, let's just say you're running 25 plus, right? But if you turn on the age expansion, what algorithm understands is the same as if you would be putting is the same as you would be selecting no age limitation targeting, right? So algorithm understands these both things as like almost the same thing, but it's like reaching the same destination just through another path, and this new path does not involve TikTok saying you that you're a bad advertiser and you're not going you're going against their policies, right? So, going back into all of this, right, what we're trying to achieve here, and again, now it's becoming individual. I'm just giving you some usual examples, right? You start doing some age breakdowns, right? So you're kind of narrowing your audience, and in this first batch of ad sets, you're not turning on the expansion because you want to see how it will reflect the cost and quality, right? Because of course you want to maintain the quality, but you also want to start understanding which path is better for you to take. Is it going to be quantity over quality, or quality over quantity from traffic perspective, right? Because even if, let's just say, your audience is older, right, and 35 plus targeting, you know, of course, it's going to increase your costs on CPM, and that's what's most likely going to happen, right? But if it's going to increase the quality more than increase the costs, right, and you're still maintaining your correlation, let's just say, between your cost and quality and buying
Again,
value.
cost is translated to CPM, just as an FYI, everybody.
Yeah.
So it's your CPM.
Yeah. So first batch is you're trying to get an answer to use it quality over quantity or quantity over quality, right? Second batch is, again, you go after the same age break groups, whatever you were doing in the first batch, but now you're trying to trick the algorithm by turning on that expansion and kind of going back to no age limitation targeting, you know, from the way, from algorithm's perspective, how algorithm understands all of this, right? Now, every single time from all of this, there's going to be different performances and different numbers, but this will all really, this stage right here, the broad targeting always gives you something that is a winner. And sometimes, you know, in one account it's going to be, let's just say, 18 plus expansion, you know, in another account it's going to be 18 plus. But your goal again here is to find what else is going to win apart from no age limitation, right? Because no age limitation is a risk long term. And you just trick the algorithm here. Second section, interest, right? So, I did something. Interests. right? So with interest, it's now overall. I'm not talking about as you saw in the before. I'm not going into behavior targeting just yet. The page behaviors, video behaviors. That's not something. That's of course that's the next stage of scaling. When you go, let's just say above like 150, 200K, maybe even 250 to 300K in monthly spend. So being in this early stage, when you're just using this template to go from 0 to, let's just say 5K in your daily spend, you don't even need to go to those things. What's fully enough is staying between these three targeting sections, broad interest, lookalikes, right? So when we go to interest, again, the best thing that we see working with interest is actually interest stocks, not single interest. Now again, TikTok, if we compare TikTok to Facebook, really the amount of interest that you can select there in TikTok is like the amount is way lower than you have in Facebook. So usually how we come to decisions like how we're going to build the stacks and how those stacks are going to look like is, of course, we start with our themes. So depending on what your product is or what your product does, you just come up with your most important themes to your audience, right? And under every single theme, you build a stack of five interest each, right? Again, simple thing that you keep doing. Again, ABO, you start splitting. Splitting your stacks into separate ad sets. Again, you use that only one ad. Same here. I forgot to mention with broad splitting. All you need is one ad. So you keep using one ad, you keep setting your daily spend as your full CPA in the beginning, right? Everything from this part stays the same, lowest cost, no exclusions, whatever country you're doing is just, in broad, we were playing around with the expansions and ages, and then in interest lookalikes, we're playing with this part. Everything else is not moving, stays the same, right? So under interest, this is what you keep doing. Usually we come up with 3 to 5 stacks. Again, it depends, depends on your product, because sometimes there isn't that many of interest to target there in TikTok, that matches interest of your audiences or matches, whatever your product does. So it's usually 3 to 5 ad sets. You run your stacks. Again, the same philosophy of running 24 hours and seeing what you'll get out of it. Next thing, lookalikes. So lookalikes are a bit more interesting because there's a lot of testing that you need to do, simply because you have, when you're building your lookalike, the main 3 biggest sections is your source, your size, and your contain source, right? So now after testing a lot, multiple accounts, in sizes and contain source parameters, we see that the best combination, because in size you have balance, narrow, and broad, right? In contain source, you have omit or contain. So again, that's 5 different parameters. You need to cross test each single thing. And after doing that multiple accounts, we see that the best combination between size and contain source that works is balance and omit, right? So now, because we already have this knowledge, we're not going into testing sizes and testing contain sources. We're always going after balance and omit in this early stage of a template, right? And our main question to answer ourselves with lookalikes, it's what source we're going to use to build this lookalike, right? So again, usually, what I see working, again, we've been testing multiple sources in multiple accounts. What we see is working best is simple, your purchase source, right? So from overall perspective, 180 days time frame is, I see, what works best from source perspective when we pair this with balanced omit, right? But of course, each account is different, or your data levels are different on different accounts. So what we're trying really to do here is only to test the different time frames between one source the source is always purchase event, right? So the most common breakdowns are 180 days, 90 days, 30 days. You can of course have few other tests, but these three tests, I would say, are the main, most important ones, right? Again, as I said before, everything else stays the same. You spend your full CPA in 24 hours, and you run this quick test, right? Now we're still under stage 2, which is finding your winning setup, but now we go into second layer. So we tested three sections: broad, interest, lookalikes, right? And sometimes, let's just say, nothing showed you anything in interest, nothing showed you nothing in lookalikes. You found something else that's working in broad, so you stick there. But in cases where you start seeing, that something is working here, something is working here, something is working here, then what you really need to do is cross-test the combinations, right? So sometimes, as I said, you can have 0 cross-test to make. Sometimes it's going to be 2, 4, 6 combinations to run. But then what you really start doing is just mixing the winning. If we have something working from broad, something from interest, something from lookalikes, we start mixing them against each other, right? So for example, if we found that from broad, 25 plus expansion works best, then we cross-test this with our winning interest, and cross-test this with our winning lookalike. So depending on how many successes you have found here or here, that will determine how many tests you have to run here. Sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's 12. But the more positive signals you're getting here, the more stronger arguments you'll be able to make after testing all of this, right? So overall, all of this is just a simple sequence of logic, right? You just want to make it clear, separated, right? And go through these three main most important layers of tests that you want to do. Right, stage 3. We did stage 1, we did stage 2, we found an ad that's winning, we found the setup that's winning, that's the best setup, right? Now in stage 3, we are also still committing to this best ad that we have, right? And we're committing to this best setup that we found from stage 2. And this is where we want to start like doubling, tripling our budgets every single day. So the main most important sections under scaling that I want to go over quickly is vertical scaling, the importance of learning phase, and then a little bit about budget management. Vertical scaling, again, that's very basic thing, right? It's very simple, it's very easy to do. Whenever you find an ad set winning, with that one ad inside, you just start duplicating it. So let's just see, again, depending on your budget, now this is risk management, but depending on your individual situation, we usually duplicate it, 5 to 10 times in the original campaign, and then create 1 to 3 new campaigns with 5 ad sets each inside. So all of this is, each ad set is completely identical. There are 0 changes. You just duplicate it right away to start increasing your spend. Now, of course, all of us know that TikTok hasn't solved the ad ID issue yet. And yes, your ad ID resets every single time you duplicate an ad. And yes, the only way to avoid that is if you're going to upload all of your ads to your page first and then use your post ID in your ads. But from our end and from other experiences, we see that you can still scale, even after you reset the ad ID. So right now, from our perspective, we don't see a huge necessity to protect those ad IDs. Because again, at the end of the day, TikTok is extremely, extremely cheap. And even all of the, it's okay. And all of us know that TikTok is still trying to figure it out, right? What they're doing for us is they're just offsetting all of the possible, downsides and targeting or quality of the traffic. They're offsetting all of that by extremely cheap costs, and you can still scale with the way it is, right? So the whole concept of this is, again, going back to understanding that all you need is 24 hours to run one test, right? So that means that if you can duplicate fast, trim fast, and repeat it fast, if this whole cycle of duplicate, trim, and repeat only takes 24 hours, then every single day you can keep doing the cycle over and over and over again. And just by that, triple your daily budget from today to tomorrow, right? Being at this stage, usually the only change that we do on budget side is that we start setting our daily budget as 2/3 CPA, right? If you remember in beginning, I quickly covered this. So let me just clarify, where is it? Yeah, I was saying that, especially in stage one, the max, if we know that the max spend, the really maximum spend that we need to spend is your CPA, but we see that our average is 2/3. So of course, this is when we start duplicating everything like crazy, we want to control our risks, right? Because if you're not gonna trim fast enough, then you're gonna lose your ROAS, right? And your scaling of budget itself does not mean that you're gonna scale the revenues, right? So we're lowering down the daily budgets, and being at the stage after you go through stage 1 and 2, you can already start, what I would recommend doing in stages 1 and 2 is to try to understand the behavior of those winning ads from a metrics perspective. And it's really about timing. If we say that our testing cycle takes 24 hours, right? Just start breaking that down into 4, 8, 16 hours time frames, and start understanding how, let's just say, your CPCs, let's just say you didn't get your purchase in the first 12 hours, right? But what you can start accumulating is how your CPCs are changing in the first 4, 8, 12 hours, right? And then apply this knowledge in a stage where you're duplicating everything like crazy, right? Because being in this stage where you're using basic vertical scaling, what matters most is understanding that this is either going to work or not going to work ahead of time, even faster than 24 hours, right? Because then you'll really unlock the full potential and the full power of how fast all of this can go. And again, like what I showed in the beginning, this third account that we went from 0 to 5K daily spent in just 9 days, that just proves the whole concept of being extremely fast with everything. Because another side of this is, I'm sure that many of you know that shelf life of an ad in TikTok is way shorter than in Facebook, right? If in Facebook you get a viral ad and you can use this ad for like 2 to 3 years or whatever, in TikTok is going to be 4 to 6 weeks, right? And I'm talking about really good winning ads. If it's a mediocre ad that in the first 24 hours just gave you your ROAS KPI, but didn't give you 1.5 or 2 times higher ROAS than your KPI, most likely this ad is going to die in the first week, right? So the timing is extremely important, only because you should already anticipate that the winning ad that you have right now might not be winning next week. It might be dead already next week, or in 2 weeks, or in maximum 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how strong the ad is, right? So that's why, yes, you're also dependable on the volume of creatives that you're putting to testing, right? Because you always need to keep feeding the account with fresh ads, right? Because the ads die fast. But what's also extremely important is that when you get a winning ad, you squeeze the maximum out of it, right? So that's one of the ways how to squeeze the maximum out of it. It is basic. It is working just like in old Facebook times. Similar things were working. Really, the best thing that I see with TikTok is that we're able to run a test in 24 hours. Sometimes, we don't even need 24 hours to make the decision, and we can start cutting losses in the first 12 hours after we started running an ad. So that's more or less it with the vertical scaling thing. Next thing is learning phase. So I want to start a little bit going into budget management here too. But just as in Facebook, same in TikTok, learning phase and exiting learning phase is extremely important. Sorry, my mouth got too dry from talking. Learning phase is extremely important. Now, patterns that I'm seeing is that, and okay, let's make a step back. Why, in the first place, we see such a big importance in vertical scaling is that to scale horizontally in TikTok, let's just say you have this ad set that's winning and you're just trying to ramp up your budget in this one ad set, right? Scaling that way is way more slower, first of all, and even a little bit harder, I would say, right? And again, knowing that your ad is not going to be winner in few weeks or something, you really need to take, to squeeze the maximum of from this ad in this limited time of period that you have, right? So the pattern that I'm seeing is that before you exit learning phase, let's just say, okay, so let's talk. Let's break this down into two sections. So first section, budget edit, and second section, quantity of how many edits you do per day. So budget edit is when you edit the budget to either move it up or down, right? So now the average overall TikTok is quite sensitive with like ramping budgets too much in this one ad set, right? And what I'm seeing overall as an average, as a pattern, is that it's okay. TikTok is okay with me changing the budget like plus 25%, up to plus 25% per one edit. But what really concerns me is that TikTok becomes sensitive when I'm making, let's just say, 2 to 4 edits a day. It's kind of okay with me making this one edit a day, and just increasing the budget by 25%. But from my perspective, that's just too slow. That's too slow for me because I know that the ad is gonna die in 2 weeks, right? So if all I would be doing is only increasing 25% budget every single day, no way we have a chance of going through from 0 daily spend to 5K daily spend, right? So now this is where it gets a little bit interesting, right? Because I've started seeing that, okay, so that's one pattern, right? One edit per day up to 25% budget, more or less TikTok is not sensitive about that. Another thing that always worries me is that for some reason sometimes I just feel that we're being stuck on a budget level per ad set between $300 $500 a day, right? I think I don't have a logical explanation for that. It's just a pattern that I'm seeing that is concerning me, right? But these two patterns changes and transforms into a better patterns when we exit learning phase, right? So when we exit learning phase, I'm seeing that the sensitivity to how much you're changing the budget more or less stays the same, right? 25%. But instead of being able to make only one edit a day without making TikTok start feeling, sensitive about this, I am able to make 3 or sometimes even 5 edits a day, right? So now thinking from a percentage perspective, instead of increasing your budget one time a day, 25%, you can start increasing it 3 times a day. And that's, from 25%, you go to 75%, and that's a big difference, right? Another thing that this pattern of being stuck between 300 and 500 moves to this pattern where I'm being stuck under 1K now. But again, 1K is better than 300 or 500, right? So being at this stage, I'm taking these smaller victories and taking the advantage of the fact that you exit learning phase, right? Yeah, these are the most important patterns that we're seeing here. overall, simple learning phase is important, exit learning phase, right? Now, of course, it will get a little bit, now when I think about it, it will get a little bit more difficult for those of you who are having low CPAs, like small dollar value CPAs, right? Because if your CPA is $20, right? And in stages 1 and 2, you were setting those daily budgets as like $20 daily spend. You're just, all of this process is going to be a little bit slower, but on accounts that have a higher CPA and you can afford, to pay 50, 60, 70, $80 per CPA, the whole process is just faster because you start calculating all of these percentages from a way higher dollar value, right? At the end, it's all about like calculating these numbers, right? So if you plus 25% on $20, that's only what, $5 that you increase, right? But if you plus 25% on $100, that's plus $25 you increased. So that's the only kind of area to be aware of. And those of you who can, if your other channels are doing good, and if you can afford to, let's just say in stage 1 and 2, if your CPA is low, but your other channels are doing good and they're creating room in draws for you, I would probably recommend doubling your CPA in stages 1 and 2, only because it will make this whole process way faster. Because again, it's all about the speed, especially with TikTok, it's all about the timing and the speed, right? So on our accounts, our CPAs are not low. We are more or less not working with very low AAV clients, so that's working towards our advantage here. Budget management. So one of the best things that I actually like and love about TikTok very much is that TikTok will always spend your daily set budget. Now, what I mean by set budget is what you set in an asset, right? But all of you know that with Facebook, let's just say, on the other hand, if you started, let's just say, if your asset today is spending $100, somewhere mid of the day, you pushed it to like 150 or whatever, it's never going to actually spend 150 on today's window on Facebook end, right? Now on TikTok, what's really great is that you can keep increasing the budget, and TikTok will actually spend whatever the budget is set there, right? So again, we already know the timing, the speed is extremely important. And this feature that TikTok has just gives us a lot of power, because when we need to scale, we can scale really fast. We can duplicate, do the vertical thing. We can also scale horizontally, increase the spend per asset. We exit learning phase. We start doing multiple budget edits a day, right? And then on top of that, TikTok actually scales. Actually spends whatever we're setting there, right? So not only it's a very strong power in scaling, but it's a very strong power in downscaling too, right? Because on the other hand, if you started with 100, and midday you see that drops a ship today, and maybe you want to just stop the test. If you want to stop the test, you just trim it. But later in the future, if you see that today maybe yesterday you pushed it too much, and today TikTok is giving you lower quality traffic because you pushed too far or too fast, and you want to cut the spending today for this particular asset, and if you started with 100 in the morning, midday, let's just say your actual spend is 50, you can easily downscale the daily budget back to 60, and it will stop as soon as it's gonna hit the $60 spend limit. So again, from budget management perspective, that's amazing, because sometimes Facebook does not stop spending, right? And it will overspend whatever the set budget you have put it there, right? Even if you're downscaling. So from budget management perspective, protecting your ROAS perspective, in investment efficiency perspective, that's just incredibly good feature if you know how to use it. So again, it's going back to the timing. It is extremely important the times when you're editing your budgets, right? Because, you know, if you're going to be too late and you're going to change your budget too late in today's perspective, you know, this is not going to help you, right? Because your actual spend is going to be already 60, 70 or $80, right? And then TikTok will not let you to set it to 50 because TikTok is saying, look, man, I already spent more than you're telling me to set the budget to. So that's overall the huge power that TikTok is giving us. It went faster than I expected, honestly. We can quickly, because that's it. That's the whole template that we're using, and we can quickly,
I mean,
once again.
it's very, very technical, you know. So this is really for the odd buyers. And I think we have, I mean, is there anybody that wants to?
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's do a quick recap one more time, then we'll give them some tips, and then we can go into whatever questions they might be having.
Okay, great.
So quick recap one more time, you know, by using this exact template, you know, we got this account, give us these results, right? Pretty great, right? Template, 3 main stages.
Which is just to recap, it's 0 to 5K daily spend at the target ROAS in 9 days.
Yeah.
That is what we have optimized this ad buying strategy to. We didn't go into the creatives. We released a blog article, long form article on TikTok creatives, which is live on our website right now. If you really want to dive into creatives, this is just the ad buying. Sorry about this. Go ahead.
Yeah. So template, this particular template gave us these results. Again, 3 main sections. The full time frame to execute this template is 6 to 10 days. Speed is the most important thing. Stage 1, creative. Stage 2, find your winning setup. Stage 3, scaling. Creative, very simple. Don't take unnecessary risks. Make the most conclusive decisions that you can make, right? The simple structure, 1 ad per ad set, whatever country, whatever, you know, gender you're going after, no age limitation, broad, no exclusions, lowest cost. Starting budget matches your CPA. Indicators, extremely important to pay attention here and don't fall into a trap. Overall, this is a common mistake that a lot of ad buyers are doing. They're hoping for something because they let their emotions get involved into this. If you really want to do this extremely fast and scale fast and achieve these results, there has to be 0 emotions involved, right? You have your indicators that you're looking for, and that's it. You know, if you have an ad, if let's just say you tested 5 ads, right? 4 ads gave you 0 purchases in the first 24 hours. 1 ad gave you a ROAS that matches your KPI. Do not go to the stage 2. It's not gonna work. Like, the only way this works, this whole template works, is if in each stage you're gonna qualify for what, you know, we're putting here as those indicators or action items, right? If out of 4 ads you got this only 1 ad that gave you, let's just say your KPI is X2, it gave you only X2. Do not go to stage 2. Stay in stage 1. Test another batch of creatives, because the set that gave you X2, you know, yes, it's going to work for another, you know, week, let's just say, right? But the strength of an ad is not good enough, right? So if the ad is not good enough, is not strong enough, you will not be able to reach conclusive answers in all of the next stages and all of the next steps that you're doing, right? It's all about, all of this is all about how strong your argument is going to be, right? So if your ad is not strong enough, all of the next tests that you're doing to get those next arguments are also not going to be strong enough, and then in the end it's not going to work. So again, indicators are extremely important here, especially this first one is always the most important to me. If I see an ad that only qualifies for my, you know, real target KPI, I'm not even doing much about that ad. You know, of course, I keep it running. You know, I increase the budget a little bit, but I don't start duplicating and doing all those things that I would normally do with a real winning ad, right? And yeah, 24 hours more than enough to run any test. It is fast, and take advantage of the fact that you can do it fast. Yep.
Okay, so I know you're going through a summary here, but I want us to have time for questions. And I think to go through all 17 slides. Yeah, I think to go through all 17 slides for a summary, I can already see that we're going to go through another 20
minutes. Yeah.
I want to prioritize the Timothy asks, is that 3 different angles or 1 angles with 3 different scenes? I'm not sure exactly at what slide that is.
So maybe he can tell us what slide he's referring to.
Yeah, maybe Timothy, if you're still on, let us know what slide you're referring to. Because I think he asked it pretty early on.
Yeah, in the meantime, let's just give some tips that we didn't mention before. So one of the tips would be build a good relationship with your TikTok rep, because the biggest benefit that I'm seeing in TikTok reps is that a lot of the accounts, sooner or later, they find themselves in a place where you're having a lot of rejections. A lot of your ads are being rejected, or you violate policies. A lot of that is also bullshit claims. You're not even violating policy, but TikTok itself again is just trying to figure it out, and you lose the momentum. So what I like about reps is that they can offer you this creatives pre-approval process. So before you upload creatives, you send them to your rep approves them in their inside system, and then comes back to you with a green light to test your ads. And if you're going to do that, there's zero chance that you're going to get any fake policy flag, that will reject your ad. So that's one thing. What are the other things?
Well, let's go back to Timothy's question. He's saying, and during the first stage.
So he's asking about creatives. What type? Yeah. So usually each section is a different different story, or epic, as not epic but story, but let's just say different angle, right? Because what is other possible way here? You can't go into one angle unless you. It's another topic, because if you really know your angle, what's selling really best, let's just say in reels, in Facebook ads, right? Then yeah, of course you could go after one angle, but usually there are multiple angles that you need to start off as this first primer test, So, but that's now going into creatives, which is another big topic, right?
Okay, so we'll get to the questions, which we're just going to finish the final tips, and then we'll go to the rest of the questions. And we have one person that wants to come on live with us in Zoom, which I'm excited about. Just as an FYI, guys, we're seeing a pattern that only after spending the first 10,000 on an ad account, we basically unlock quality and scaling mode so far. Now, that might change over time, but right now we're just seeing that the very first ad spend doesn't really unlock the quality just yet. So you do have to have an investment. Hopefully you're not a startup where you're not getting any purchases listening to this. This is more for those e-commerce brands that found product market fit, have the stream of revenue that's coming in. Just expect, 10K, it should be your investment for you unlock the quality. It was kind of similar to Facebook. You had to invest in testing. So that's really the benchmark there.
Yeah, the closest correlation that you can see here is that it correlates with the amount of data signals that you currently have in your Shopify, right? And how much Pixel can learn from your existing data before you actually start running ads, right? So if if you don't have a lot of data or a lot of purchases, then you have to commit to making the investment, because it might not be that fast or that easy.
Yeah. Then definitely explore whitelisting, Spark ads. That is a very effective methodology. So if you have a really good creative production and whitelisting inside TikTok, that could be very powerful as well. All right, so let's get into questions. Sebastian asked, did you ever encounter the TikTok ads platform under report? And what's the most accurate way to track conversions that are coming from TikTok?
Wait, my brain turned off for a second. I'm going to read the question again myself. On the report, accurate way to track conversions. Look, every channel is going to underreport, but it doesn't matter what your ROAS as a number value, as a number itself is. What matters is your correlation between whatever number you're seeing in TikTok and whatever number that correlates as your total ROAS, right? So yes, you know, it under reports, but from what I'm seeing, because mostly we use Hyros on last click, what I'm seeing is that actually TikTok has something there with their own attribution, that what they attribute as in like TikTok ROAS is not that far away from what Hyros shows as last click, right? So even from my perspective, if I wouldn't have a ROAS, if I wouldn't have Hyros for accounts, right, I would not blindly trust whatever TikTok is showing me. I would, you know, double check the correlation between TikTok and whatever analytics are showing me. But more or less, you're more than capable of making the right decision. Because again, like it's not about what ROAS as a number you're seeing, right? It doesn't matter. The number itself does not matter. What matters is correlation.
Yeah, this goes back to the Sugatan philosophy. I think that founders and ad buyers, you guys are all aiming for accurate reporting, but I've learned in the last 4 years, you actually have to fucking hire a whole data team to report on accuracy on any given channel, to understand where to allocate your resources. But the reality is that you're not going to get accuracy. You can't afford to hire a fucking, 6 people data team. Instead, what you're looking for is a stable data environment that is giving you the signals that what you're doing is working or isn't working, tying it back to what Matas is saying is correlation. So if you're seeing that a 1.6x ROAS on TikTok, and for us, we use Hyros last click attribution because that's what the choice that we've made, and that's showing 1.6x total as 1.6x TikTok ROAS, and that's correlating to our total ROAS that we need combining Facebook spend and TikTok spend. Then we know that that's our benchmark ROAS inside TikTok. We're not going for accuracy. We're going for like correlation, like what Matas is saying. Very important distinction there. All right. Can you showcase some examples of some of the best highly converting ads you guys had for some of your clients? Not in this one, Sebastian. Really, I'm gonna put you to our blog article that we wrote about that one emphasized mostly on TikTok creatives. Like literally 90% of that article is TikTok creatives. And it's a lot of the creatives that we produced in-house is what we go over. So go to our blog on Sugatan. It just got released a couple weeks ago. So it's very fresh content. Sebastian also asked, when you say 1 edit per day, that's on the ad set level, right? It's not the whole ad account or campaign. That wouldn't make sense. 1 edit per day. He's talking about, we just want to make sure that, yeah, on the ad set level. Yep. That's the budget management question.
Yep.
So
yes, per ad set, yes.
Yes, per ad set. Okay. And then we've got one person that are they still on standby, Callum, to come into live Zoom chat? Callum?
Calm disappeared. Do we have any other questions? Probably we should
Said
have
he had one
joined.
person. Oh, he said he's just waiting for them. Okay, cool. All right. Well, gosh, I'm so curious to hear about everybody else's TikTok experience. I think actually I have the marketing team that is recruiting for other TikTok ad buyers. We want to talk to anybody who has been spending over 500K per month on TikTok, to just kind of do a roundtable to exchange, what you're seeing, and what we're seeing, and exchange information on that level. And just compare notes, really. TikTok is a super powerful acquisition channel, and we really need to keep innovating, because there's going to be a lot of changes over the next 3 years inside TikTok and how people consume content on TikTok. And the algorithm changes too on the platform. They're going to try to make it easier for us advertisers or for people to shop on TikTok, because right now it's not that easy. The correlation that we're seeing is that they see the ad on TikTok and then Google is attributing to the sale, because what they're doing is they're actually going on Google to look it up, and then they'll go into the branded search ad, and then they'll make the purchase through there. So just as an FYI, guys, TikTok will get better in, keeping the people on platform, because it's in their best interest to do so.
Yes, I missed the whole speech that you made here. I was changing my rooms. Yeah. You were talking something about attribution, right?
I was just saying that, people are what we've seen is that whenever we increase the ad spend on TikTok, there's more people coming in. There's more people coming in reported on Google. Google is attributing and taking credit for the sale, and that's because people are essentially having to take that extra step in Googling your brand when they see it on TikTok, and then going to your branded your branded ads on Google. So you want to make sure that your SEO is super on point if you start to spend money on TikTok, because they're Googling you right after. And that's really because TikTok is a fetus of an algorithm and a platform for advertisers at the moment, that they're not, they're still developing how to keep people on platform once they see the ad.
Yeah, and the biggest trend that we're seeing is that brand search, not only volume of the spend increases, but also the ROAS and brand search increases at the same time, right? So that's the, on some of the accounts, we're not changing anything, but as soon as we started scaling on TikTok, we started seeing that both ROAS and spend on brand search increases, and that's the only effect, new effect that happened, and that's important, very important thing to look at.
Does creative fatigue happen on TikTok? We touched on this earlier. We call it the shelf life of an ad. Shelf life is really how long the ad can be live for, that continues to bring in a ton of purchases. On Facebook, the shelf life is relatively long, and on TikTok, it's short. So maybe you can go into timeframes and specificity, Marcus.
Yeah, more or less I covered that earlier already, that if you have a really, really strong winning TikTok ad, you can expect 4 to 6 weeks, let's say, is the max, or max average, right? And if you have mediocre performance, it's going to be around a week, 2 weeks time frame, and then the ad dies. So again, going back to why the timing is so extremely important in all of this.
Yeah.
Sorry, not the timing, the speed of all of the execution, all of the ad buying is important.
Okay, great. So let's invite Nils in and then we'll wrap it up. Do we have somebody that is going to ask us a live question coming into Zoom right now? Got a beep. Okay, stop screen share. Can you stop screen share about this?
I don't know, something happened with iPad. I cannot. Oh wait, sorry, I forgot how to do that. This is how you do it. Okay.
There we go.
Cool.
Hi, Nils.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Perfect. Yeah, no, so I just have two questions. I haven't fully finished the video yet, so maybe these questions have been answered already. But yeah, so my first question would be if you guys have any experience with using value optimization. We have been using it and seeing it perform quite well. So I was just, thinking if you guys have tried it out and if you've seen it work well.
Yeah, so of course we didn't cover a lot of things that are part of the next stage, where you need to scale past the 5K, let's just say daily spend limit behaviors and all of that. So value is one of those things, different optimizations, one of those things that we enter like after executing this template in the first month or whatever, right? On holistic perspective, it's not outperforming the lowest cost, but in some particular accounts we're seeing the performance. So it's just one of the things that either way, sooner or later, you just have to test out.
Nils, what are you seeing? What daily spend are you guys doing on TikTok?
So maybe like a week or two ago, we did 3 or 4K a day, but had to scale down because of inventory issues.
Okay.
But so it's up and down. But so yeah. Yeah, thank you for the answer as well. I do have one more question, if it's fine, or maybe I should wait with it.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So one thing that I've noticed, and probably a lot of people have too, is that let's say we have some creatives that are performing well, and we try to scale them. Very fast, they will drop in performance. And so I've heard a lot of people trying to use new ad accounts. So maybe having like 5 ad accounts. So when some creatives start to drop in performance, they just push it over to the other ad accounts. I'm not sure if you have tried that or if you have like any other strategies to increase the lifetime of good ad creatives.
Yeah, so the whole thing really reminds me of those old Facebook, because on Facebook too, like in the past, a lot of the ad buyers, whenever they hit the limit and they cannot scale further, they're creating new ad accounts, to take advantage of the new ad account. So from my perspective, maybe it ties back with the decision making that the needle movers are always one or very few decisions from 100 that you need to make to really push the needle. So we're not doing that, and we're not trying to use that type of tag, because the energy that I would waste in trying to make this work is not worth it in the long term. It's not going to really be the needle mover from my perspective, and I'd rather use the same time and energy to find what really will scale in this one ad account, and what really will make all of this work. So I think that from our perspective, we just never try to go after these like little short-term solutions, because they don't matter in the long term.
But you know what? Yeah. So we're really big advocates of big needle moving actions. But in that same line though, Nils, like in that same context, I would think that combining what you're saying and what we're saying, I would think that the strategy would be to recycle through whitelisted accounts. And so if you could And there are some influencers who would allow you to use their account to advertise not just their own content, but to open it up for other content, just using their whitelisting account. If you rent their account on a monthly basis, let's say that you pay them, let's just say $2,000 a month. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a number to rent their account, and you open it up so that you could recycle that top performing ad into their whitelisted account. I would say that that's the needle mover, rather than, you know, trying to open up 4 new ad accounts just to keep pushing these top performing ads through. Just because you're going to get rejections, you're going to get, I mean, I think it's more like an administrative nightmare when I think about that, just like what it was inside Facebook. I would think that you would want to leverage those creatives through whitelisted ads. You're going to combine 2 powerful things together. That's how I would approach it, to be honest with you.
I mean, that sounds like a very good idea. Thank you for that. We are running Spark ads, but as you say, running them with multiple accounts, I think that can be very good for sure. So thank you for that idea. It will be a logistical nightmare to do the multiple ad accounts, and but the thing with the Spark ads, I think that can work for sure.
100%. And just, you know, a lot of the influencers, they don't even really understand. All you have to say is you're going to get more followers. And typically they'll be like, okay, cool. You know, they don't really understand the value, right? So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time as well.
You're welcome. Thanks, Nils. Good luck. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So let's wrap up. Thanks everybody for joining. And I don't know, what else? Is there anything that we want to wrap up with? No.
Well, you know,
really, we want to just keep talking to those who are doing TikTok ads, and just compare notes, because it's a very innovative period, very exciting time in general. So just reach out to us if you're doing, if you are, you know, spending over 500K on ads per month.
I think overall we're just very interested in getting any feedback that we can get out of all of this. Right, last time we did this live, you know, it was like, it was very interesting to get the feedback from people. You know, we want to encourage you to share the feedback once again with us, and we'll see. Maybe we'll do this more often on more of the topics, if you see that if you can find enough value in all of this that we're sharing with you.
Cool. Thanks everybody.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.